Okay, I have, what time? I got 4:04, and I will call the meeting to order. Okay. Establishment of a quorum. Lee.
Here.
Mary.
Here.
Mary Ann.
Here.
Mickey.
Here.
Allison.
Here.
Marcia.
Here.
And Noah Reagan. And I'm here. So we have a quorum. Mary, would you read the governor's remote policy?
Yeah, this May 17th open meeting of the Town Area Plan Work Group, a subcommittee of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission, is convening by video conference pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. This meeting is being recorded. Please be aware other people may be able to see you, and take care not to share a device's screen. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please silence all phones and devices. This meeting will feature public comment if there are any members of the public in attendance who wish to comment. And we've already done the roll call, so Henry, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the agenda. Any comments? I take that as a no. Okay. Approval, Lee.
Oh, agenda? Yes, aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Mary Ann.
Yes.
Mickey.
Aye.
Allison.
Aye.
Marcia.
Yes.
And I'm an aye also. So we got an agenda. All right. Approval of the draft minutes from April 19th, 2024. Any discussion? Take that as a no. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Marcia, how about you?
Marianne.
Mary Ann. Second.
Second, Marcia.
Marcia. Okay. All in favor, Lee?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Mickey?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Marcia?
Aye.
And Henry's also an aye. Very good. Okay, discussion. Lee, do you want to start off with your circulation?
Sure. Henry, except I don't know what it is you expect me to say, because the document has not been circulated. But let me explain or amplify a little bit on that. Yesterday,
I'm sorry, Lee, to interrupt. Do you want me to put it on the screen,
not yet,
Henry? Yeah.
but that either of us can do that. But yesterday I went through the draft circulation document and edited it to be a declarative statement, removed questions, picked the options that I thought had the most support in our last meeting. And it's 2+ pages. And so stylistically, it's a declarative statement covering the 5 issues of, and here, Mary, maybe we do need to go forward. Let me do it, because then I, if I may, I can control it.
Sure.
Sorry, folks, it's not yet on my screen, but I can fix that momentarily. And now it's on my screen. And so now I'll go back to share screen. You should be able to see it.
We do.
Okay, so as I say, it's a simple declarative statement. The I called it the segment. I may need to change that word, but it's the road network, sidewalk and pedestrian safety, parking, public transportation, and other issues. For the road network, if you recall, I explained that the long-range transportation plan had a number of projects in various degrees of readiness, and they were all consistent with what we had gathered from the survey. And so I simply say they're endorsed. But then in the second paragraph, there's nothing on Gardner Street. And I think that's an important issue for the master plan. I'll just give you a second to read down through it. Protect its historic nature, but provide some relief.
As we go through this, when do you want to have questions or discussion?
Marcia, I've given myself such a lead preparation time. Let me say that perhaps the best way to go is section by section. So looking at items number 1, well, paragraph 1 and 2 in item 1. Let's do that. Marcia, have you got a question? You're on, yeah, there we go.
I do, and I just am in the wake of a meeting yesterday with the traffic safety work group in which Liberty Street and Gardner Street were on the agenda. So there was discussion. There had been, not that it's really specifically, or in general relevant to what we put in the master plan, but apparently there had been a request to review the situation from administration in town. I don't know specifically where, but there was a discussion among the members of that work group and certainly neighbors, including myself, and it was decided not to move forward with any further study, and that various reasons, of course, were given, but one of which was that that there's a limited amount that can be done, and they were specifically trying to study again whether to go with a one-way on Gardner and Liberty. And it was decided at that meeting yesterday that that can actually create another problem of speed. I don't, there was discussion, as you have here, Lee, about maybe trying to address some of the utility poles, and if that's really for pedestrian use of the sidewalks. So other than that, there was no other really outcome to that. So I'm just not sure about including a recommendation.
Yeah. I understand what you said, Marcia, and it quite possibly explains why there's nothing about Gardner Street in the long-range transportation plan. And yet, my feeling, and I'm a big user of Gardner Street because it is the relief route around downtown when downtown is totally jammed. I think the master plan would be remiss if it ignored it.
Well,
interesting. Marcia, this is just a little tangent. When we get down to sidewalk and pedestrian safety, I do include Liberty Street. Let's see if we.
Well, I'm going to chime in before you go to the next element, Lee.
Yeah.
I actually agree with you that what you have written here, all it does is call for a planning study. It doesn't make a recommendation. It highlights some of the issues and some of the things that could be investigated. But I think what's written here is appropriate in this document.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, yeah, I just don't agree on that. I do feel that we've had 5 months, I specifically have had 5 months of absolutely no traffic but bulldozers and digging and work for 5 months on this road. And I just find it interesting to consider some other creative thinking about it, in the sense that people have really managed to find alternate routes. And I do believe that that would be one recommendation of areas of congestion, is for one way or another to be recommending alternate routes. You find that in many urban areas. And so people have lasted without going down Gardner, Liberty, India, Hussey Street. And I also feel that it's just trying to recognize that it's not just a corridor for vehicles, but for multi-users of those roads.
Yeah. Just a quick news report. Marcia probably is aware of it. Priscilla volunteers at the thrift shop, and she came back and she said, I nearly made a mistake. I headed to the thrift shop the wrong way on India Street, because that's how I get to the driveway there. And cars were coming at me. So India and Hussey Street have been opened up. I presume that Liberty and North Liberty have been opened up as well.
Well, they began the asphalt going down on Tuesday and completed the asphalting of the sidewalks on Wednesday. So,
Yeah.
and the removal of all the equipment. So I believe it is open, but it is true. I've spent 5 months never knowing day to day how I could get out of my drive or how I could ever come back home. And many
Yeah.
times I could do
Paul LaPaglia lives on Atlantic Avenue, and it opened up a few days ago. And yes, the asphalt on the sidewalk, I believe starting next fall, is to be replaced with a proper historic sidewalk.
Yeah, from what I hear, that might not happen for another 10 to 12 months, but I do believe, and did, make a recommendation at the meeting yesterday, that there be some form of monitoring through the summer season, because the way that those sidewalks are asphalted just is a greater invitation than ever to have, it's going to be a much wider street because of that, because
Yeah,
so much more easily drive on those asphalted sidewalks. But
Nantucket drivers are ever hopeful.
I just find it a useful thing to sit back and see what really happened in this time,
Yeah.
in which we could not drive on a well-trafficked used road. That maybe we've found other ways.
One of the challenges that you raised, Marcia, is that Gardner Street is an alternate route. So now we're thinking about, how do we make an alternate to the alternate?
Well, it existed for the last 5 months. We
I,
don't have to make it. Everybody did it.
I live on the west side of town, sorry, east side of town. And in the summer, I participate at the jetties in community sailing. So 2, 3, 4 times a week, I'm headed from here at Five Corners to the jetties. And Gardner Street's the only way to do it, because Union Street, Washington Street is a 20-minute affair just to get through the intersections. All right. This is going to go into the minutes, but right at the moment, I haven't seen a suggestion for change.
I would leave it as is, Lee. If you want to vote on it, that's fine.
The fewer votes, the faster we'll get through this. Unless anybody has a suggestion for change, I think I've heard that we'll just carry on. Now, parking on sidewalks. when we get to our submission to MPEDC, I do not believe that we should include the appended document from 2003, but it's there for you to see that it's been studied for a lengthy time. And so the statement that I see is that we believe that the practice needs to be defined and regulated, but not banned. Input from state government, and just leave it at that. But it does raise the issue that Nantucket gets its downtown parking, sorry, our near downtown parking, which is in the town area, by parking on sidewalks. And it needs to be defined and regulated. Marcia's concern about safety, for example, on the busy streets such as India, sidewalk driving can frighten and even jeopardize pedestrians. And then we get the issue of high curbs, and that's also mentioned. So if anybody has anything to say about these two paragraphs, I'd be happy to jot it down. All right.
I would personally love to see the practice banned.
Sorry, Marcia.
I would love to see the practice banned of parking on sidewalks. And
Yeah.
I do believe on any number of streets that it simply slows the traffic and you can actually pass two large vehicles. So that's just my opinion on, because it just engenders so many other issues of safety.
So a piece of, I want to say history, but that's not quite right. Roads and right-of-way, some now years ago, surveyed all of the sidewalks in the downtown area, and that included India and Hussey Street, commenting on when the minimum width, which I think is nominally 4 feet, but sorry, the minimum is 3, the desired is 4, for strollers, wheelchairs, not to mention pedestrians. And a huge spreadsheet was developed doorway by doorway and given to the DPW. Out of that came the suggestion and then financial legislation that the town would support rebuilding of sidewalks to the tune of $1 million a year. I think we're in year 3, with the understanding that they were not going to deal with it lot by lot, but basically street by street, which is, and we've seen the first few of those being worked on with a bunch more. There are crews out there now repairing some of the worst parts in anticipation of a contract. So from my vantage point, I know that a lot has been done for sidewalks. The sidewalk policy of the town is that if you can't get past a legal encroachment, such as a utility pole, there should be a curb cut so that you could head out into the road with a stroller and back again. Not the best, but that is in paper.
Lee, where is that paper? I'm not familiar with that particular bylaw.
DPW encroachment policy, Mickey.
And it talks about parking on the sidewalks.
No, about how to get past a legal encroachment.
Like a tree or a phone pole.
Yeah. Parking on sidewalks comes from a oral statement by Chief Pittman, who reminded, again, roads and right-of-way, that it was illegal under Massachusetts law, and that the way he dealt with it was to tell his officers, don't bother ticketing anybody. It's just too complicated. If we need any kind of a regulatory change, it's got to come from the select board. So,
Well,
so the statement in the first paragraph about defined and regulated is meant to conform with the notion that it's not legal, but that we really would like some kind of regulatory relief. And I'm sure our new police chief would like it as well. Okay.
Does that mean regulatory relief?
It's against the law to park on a sidewalk. That's a regulation. It's actually statutory Massachusetts general law. So I use regulatory in small r just to cover whatever.
Because we know it's against the law now. So to me, it seemed to me that we needed more to do with a concerted, consistent unity of approach. Because when I met one of the officers on the street last summer, they began the summer with the direction to ticket not only cars parking on the sidewalk, but to ticket bicycles going in the wrong way. And then something fell out, where people they just, whoever was, dealing with the tickets and the complaints, that I don't believe there was, it didn't sound to me that there was that there was a unity of the different bodies that would deal with that enforcement. And so I'm not sure it's regulatory. I think it's the powers that be agreeing and actually.
Marcia, there were some tickets placed on my street, my little new street. And after a day or two, we got the word it was not going to be enforced. It's an absence of regulation, and it's all within the hands of the police. It's an enforcement issue. I could say, but I don't want it to go into the document, that what we need is a home rule petition to be able to escape from the general law and mass regulations. That goes beyond, back up here. The practice needs to be defined and regulated.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just not understanding. I thought it was a law on the books, so I'm not understanding. So why does it have to be further defined if it's a law?
Because we're looking for relief from that law for Nantucket County. Otherwise, we're left with the option of asking the police not to enforce or asking the police to enforce heavily, which would eliminate, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 parking places.
I don't think it actually does, but maybe there is a survey. I'm sorry to be so,
Oh yeah,
just believe.
I know that Bruce Miller, when he was a member of the select board, went down those streets with a tape measure.
Well, the tape measure is all according relative to what car you're driving. And if I can get down India Street and those huge trucks that were in my street for 5 months, those huge trucks would go down India without being on a sidewalk. Or, on York Street at the Museum of African American History where the NERDA bus comes up. I have parked my car not on the sidewalk, and that NERDA bus can come up. And so
Okay, the document that I've appended, the 2003, has data for each of those streets in terms of width and whether they're whether one would be able to park legally or would have to park on the sidewalk. That's appended, and I'm of the mind that when we submit this, we give those documents, that and the Civic League survey, to MPEDC as a supplement, but I don't think it should go into our final report. Parking. I have proposed that the parking district be expanded to our entire town area to include CDT, commercial downtown, and the harborfront, waterfront. And that anybody who wants to park anywhere in there would need a permit. And as today, parking permits are discounted for residents. What my suggestion would imply is that if somebody got on the ferry with a car, there would be a little notice saying, please scan this QR code to get your temporary parking permit. That it would be made very easy, but anybody who wanted to park would need a permit. It's not a ban, but it does tighten up things. And then I also talk about if there is a separate paid parking scheme, we endorse digital, not meters or stickers or anything else of that sort. And then I finally suggest in the last paragraph that overnight parking permitted lots be developed, but not downtown, not the Washington Street lot, not the Silver Street lot, but overnight parking, sure, Fairgrounds Road and various locations around the airport, but not necessarily the airport parking, but Bunker Road, someplace like that, or there are several industrial roads on the other side of the airport that would be an excellent place for overnight parking. It would require shuttle bus service. So let's start from the top. There's the survey. It basically says the Civic League is in favor of more enforcement. I do say that we don't recommend a parking structure downtown, and that the best location would be for Fairgrounds. And that I do recognize that Harbor Place is outside of our town area, which means our comments are advisory. And here's the alternative of the parking district be expanded, and that there be residential discounts, differential fees for commercial and digital purchases, easy to acquire of short-term permits. Overnight parking. And questions? All right, moving right along, the next two are fairly easy. The Nantucket Regional Transportation Authority has just announced a 6-month trial of free passage. And they're exploring a reinstatement of the ferry shuttle. And these moves should be encouraged by the town. The Jetties lot has shuttle bus service from in front of the Whaling Museum. And any money that's made from additional paid parking should be used to subsidize the shuttle buses. We encourage bicycle use, and to encourage visitors to Nantucket to leave their cars, a frequent shuttle service should be initiated. Mike Burns is not happy with this particular one because he says those are difficult streets to navigate. Let me tell you, I've seen people navigating with their rollerboards and their heavy suitcases, just trying to get out of Steamboat Wharf and Strait Wharf. And there ought to be a way to help them out. And finally, we know that there are those who think that Nantucket politeness to people crossing intersections by the Juice Bar or Easy Street at Strait Wharf. But we also know that this means backups in some cases to Francis Street and beyond.
So Lee, I'm gonna have to chime in and say, I don't see anything in paragraph 5 that is relevant to our town area plan.
I'll put the
None of the
statement in
intersections you
there that,
mentioned,
this
they
is,
don't even back up into our area.
yeah, this is advisory only, but, yes, um, Beach Street and, Union Street are in our area and they both get backups. But I'll put an advisory note in there. But let me write that down, Mary. And
Beach Street is not in our area.
I think we bound it.
We get a half of C Street, but we don't reach Beach Street, and even then, it isn't
Yeah.
significant enough of a connection to warrant being called out in this way, in my opinion.
Okay, Mary, I hear you.
Yep.
I will put in a note that these streets, either bound or are not in our area, but Union Street certainly is.
It is, yes.
And, this is for sharing with the yet to be appointed local area plan work groups for downtown and the waterfront. Also Brant Point.
Well,
Which
that,
is-
and I don't, seriously, I do not intend any offense, but then this information should be shared with those groups in the context of their plans. It really has no place in our plan. It would be like commenting on Mattakit.
Okay,
I do agree with Mary, just in the sense that we're setting a precedent for all other components of the area plan, where many of us would love to extend and make some other advisory comments about issues that are just not in our area, unfortunately.
all right. I do feel that it is important for the town area to let the other, or to let MPEDC know that we are impacted by these jams. But I will amend the statement to reflect that. And this is the final section. So there you are, Henry. I'm going to stop the share unless somebody's got one final benedictory comment. Okay.
Thank you, Lee. Marcia, you want to go next?
Not really, but I guess I can. Yeah, you want, oh, I guess the easiest one that I've really been on alone is the cultural and natural resources. So you have those notes, correct? Henry, can you put them and screen share those?
They're on my email.
All right, so.
Lee, can you find them and bring them up?
Yes, it's gonna take me a second
That's fine.
because I've got to go to your email. Reagan writes Zoom not connecting. While I'm doing this, maybe you can send Reagan the link once again. Okay. All right. We're getting there, Henry.
Okay. And I just sent it to Reagan.
I think that one of the most important items that I felt in composing some of the work for the natural and cultural resources was. So do I have any ability to move this up or down? No, I don't.
Sorry, Marcia, do you have any ability to do what?
To move this up or down.
No, but I do.
You do.
Where do you want me to start?
Yeah, hold on. I can't, getting dizzy here. Could you stop moving it for a minute? Mm. No, it's further down, I think, on the end. The very end. Or maybe it's number one, goal number one was really with natural and cultural resources. I felt a need to step back, and as it's written there, to recognize and value those natural and cultural resources in relationship with their settings, that everything, that all the other components of the plan are recommending or highlighting is really supporting the natural and cultural resources. And I gave an example of when I did take a class with Edward Stackpole, and he would often speak about the importance of preserving the setting. He would talk about the old mill as being like a gemstone, but that you needed the setting around it. He was very much opposed to intensifying the density of construction or housing around the mill. That it really was a value in and of itself, but its setting was also valuable. And so, I further wrote in the same way that the area encompassed by our area plan really functions as the setting for the downtown area, as well as the entire island. And that it's really in combination with the downtown and the waterfront that we welcome and support and maintain our year-round life and tourism on the island. So so I felt that was important. And I think, so it says in strategy 1.1 to support and encourage all the recommendations that are integrated into the 9 components, since we're all in relationship and synergy. So, Lee, if you go to the top of this compilation of notes, it begins with
Marcia, I heard you say top, but top of what?
the document.
By the way, Marcia, I've been involved in any number of strategic planning exercises, and I recognize goals and strategies. You too must have been part of a strategic planning exercise.
Oh, definitely. Well, I was employed by the National Park Service. That will do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we are at the top.
We're at the top, and it's really, I think we've all reviewed these at a number of times, but it's just basically a list to include natural and cultural resources. And I begin with the one number that I had of the numbers of residential structures that are historic. And then I go down and I list those of the sites and the houses owned by a historical association, the Museum of African American History, and on down. And I think we have some cemeteries. I forget, there were some corrections to some of the cemeteries, and I don't remember if that's been updated. And then it goes and lists cultural sites and events. I put in the mission statement of the cultural district. We moved down to other organizations and the events further down, Lee.
Yeah, Marcia, I'm with you. I'm just writing a note to myself. Check on cemeteries.
Yeah, Newtown Cemetery is not in our area, but our area bisects the old and new north cemeteries.
Yeah.
That was the swap
Um,
that we made on the list.
What about Quaker?
Quaker's on the list, and it is
Yeah,
in
there they
there.
are. Okay, no, we're good.
So I just need to eliminate Newtown Cemetery, correct?
Okay.
Right, and add the old north, or sorry, older new north.
Is that what it's called? Older?
Well,
New-
one side is old north and the other side is new north, and I can never remember which side is on which side.
The Gardner Burial Ground, otherwise known as Old North, is the one most distant from downtown.
Yeah, okay.
And
So
New
old
North,
north is not, but new north is in
and
our
New
area.
North is against what was the site of an old mill, and the stream running out of there, which is irrelevant to this discussion, was known in 2 words as the Mill Brook.
Okay.
Okay. Marcia, I'm moving down.
Yeah, moving down is good. Then we have the events. There may be something else that I've missed, the yearly events that happen. I've noted under natural sites that we wanted to reference the open space list that's been done. And I wanted to add the elm trees and the cobblestones with some kind of a brief history.
Uh, Sorry, that's called a vocal pause. It doesn't mean anything. What does is the town arborist may have a list of all the elm trees.
All right, so let me jump in. I'm on the town's tree advisory committee, and we did have a survey done a couple years ago through the DPW, which should have a list of all of the town trees that are in our area. Maybe not quite in the fringes, but you know, he did an extensive effort for the town area as well as the Sconset town area.
Thank you, Mary.
However, that list is not yet in a publicly available form. I would certainly support trying to help get that list published. Where, you know, we just need time and money to do it.
So what, in the meantime, should we add in here? Because I understand that that list would include trees that are not in our area also.
Well, what you might do is simply refer to the town's tree advisory committee or the tree warden or the town arborist or the DPW, all of whom are involved in taking care of the trees, for references on what trees are town trees and what trees are historic elms.
Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. But
So there we are,
sorry, just to
goals and
follow,
strategies.
let's follow up on that for a second. The town did 30 years ago plant more elm trees in the corridor defined roughly as Sparks Avenue, Pleasant Street, Hooper Farm Road, you know, that general mid-island major roads. And some of those elms are quite nice, you know, right now. But they are also, they're intended to be future historic elms, if you will. They were intended to extend the elm canopy out from the main parts of town where we have the huge historic elms and into the areas that we're developing to be more town-like, so that they would also in the future have huge historic elms. And maybe that's something we want to note in this plan if we're going to be talking about the trees, is that protection specifically for those elm trees that were planted in the 90s by the town is important. I would
Thank
appreciate.
you, Mary.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a question, or I will ask a question of Marcia. There's that vocal pause again. Would you consider being the lead author on this to make the amendments such as Mary has suggested?
Yes, I will, but I would also like to know, I'm wondering, Mary, even though it's not an official document, if I think it would just, to me, it's significant to know even if there's a range, are we talking about 100 trees or 200 trees, or just to get a sense of, you know, the importance? And, you know, if I could get a little bit of just history, that these are, say, 1850, the bulk of the older historic trees.
There was, to pronounce in English, a fracas, in French, a fracas, on York Street, where the owner of a lot cut down a tree without seeking permission. And that brought to the forefront the issue of town trees and solidified the town's approach to documenting town trees, which may be, Mary, why it's, since it's relatively new, not yet up for the public to
No, Lee, it's simply that, I mean, we've been documenting town trees for decades. I served on the tree advisory committee in the 90s. We were documenting town trees then. We have records going back decades of lists of trees. We have also institutional knowledge of trees. And the problem is those records are on pieces of paper, and those pieces of paper are in boxes, and those boxes are somewhere packed away.
Okay.
So what we did was try and update that with a GPS system so that we would get precise coordinates. We added you know, information about the species and the age and the size, but all of that information is within that GPS unit. So it needs to be extracted and converted into information that can then be imported into the town's GIS system. It's just a question of time and money to do those conversions of data.
Mary,
And
I hope you'll agree that that can be condensed into a sentence or two from Marcia that says information about town trees should be made available and part of the planning for natural and cultural district.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would have more to say, obviously, but
So is there a way to get any sense of account, Mary?
I can ask.
And also, I thought I understood that many trees at some point in time had been marked.
Many trees do have tags on them. They're mostly there's metal circles with a nail in the center. Some of them have a designation TAC for Town Advisory or Tree Advisory Committee, or Town of Nantucket designation. And we are actually in the process of ordering new tags that will be more informative. So they might have the species of the tree. They might have a QR code on them for more information. And so we do plan to roll that out. Again, time and money, it'll probably be a multi-year effort, but that is in the works so that the trees themselves will carry more information for the public to consume.
Okay. So I will rewrite a sentence or two and get that to you, Lee. I think everything else down here in strategy 1.2.
Sorry, may I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
I sent you an article. I was Googling because, you know, that's what one does. I found an article by the NHA about the history of cobblestones. So I just sent that to the group.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I just saw it.
Yes,
Make that
And
addition also.
I didn't click on the link, but I
it's a real link. It's not a fishing expedition.
Excellent, excellent.
Marcia, on goal 2, somebody needs to remind me, but I think the HDC was given permission to restore the advisory boards. Mickey, do you have input?
Not so, Lee. Yes. I mean,
They just, yeah, they're,
Mickey. So, but Mickey's been on it forever, right?
true. They're doing nothing about it. I think I think it's been determined that the select board has the ability to reestablish them. But no one's going there for whatever reason.
Okay. So then the statement as written is fine.
Yes, and it follows suit with other aspects that would strengthen the process, strengthen the HDC with some administrative review in-house. We used to have qualified architectural historians, architects. So I go on to recommend that an architectural historian be funded to review old historic district structures. We sorely need an updating of the guidebook, Building with Nantucket in Mind, and with a focus on treating the outlying areas separately, because as Mickey and I experience week to week with this review, that the historic structures for which the HDC was established are really not getting the attention that they need or deserve in any way, because construction is in the outlying areas and not historic context. So, and I think, yes, so that's goal number 2.
Marcia, just as a quick comment, both of the applicants for the open seat on the HDC, both of them have said we need to renew and amend Building with Nantucket in Mind. So somebody will be on the HDC whose avowed statement about why he's applying or running is that document.
I mean, it is something that's been known for quite some time. It is a very, very expensive process. And I think many of us hoped that with a recent study, the name of which I don't remember what it is, Mickey, that was done by a third party. It's expensive. And I think the other thing that shifted, which I've not alluded to here, which maybe you could all chime in on, is there was a major change when Plus came into being, so that the HDC was autonomous. I should say autonomous. It was a separate entity with its own director. Mickey, would you say something more about, because for many people, it's created issues.
Well, you're right. It used to be prior to the creation of Plus, it was its own department, I guess. And when Plus came around, and this is, I think, around the time that Mark Voigt was then, who was the current administrator of the HTC, Mark was reassigned over to the DPW, and the HTC no longer had a specific administrator because it was handled by Plus. And then I'm not sure when Holly came on board, but she's the preservation planner. Holly does know the business well. She advises the HTC to some degree. Unfortunately, they don't always go by her advice as much as I feel they should, but they make their own votes. So yeah, I think goal number 2 that Marcia has there is really important, because the HTC does need strengthening. It needs a dedicated staff person, and it doesn't have that because it's all handled by Plus.
So I could be more specific in that, to have a designated staff, because I agree that Holly Backus is certainly, but she's holding many roles. So
Yes.
It's too big of a job, given the numbers of applications, the kind of work, even with Mickey and I, we spend, at least 2 hours every week, and Mickey spends even more reviewing just those applications in our old historic district. So goal number 3.
We may want to pause.
Okay.
It's 2 minutes to 5 right now. I've got one thing to bring up.
Thank you. But if I may, because you're suggesting that we adjourn, and I think it's appropriate. Marcia, goal 4, in light of the town meeting approval of coastal resilience districts, do we want to I'm looking for a verb, but mix in coastal resilient district into goal 4?
My advice, Lee, would be no.
Okay.
You know, the goal 4 was related to my growing sense that even though I am not on the waterfront and I am in this old historic district, that rising seas are going to impact all of us in our town area, whether it's our water, whether it's our basements, whether it's the wetland areas. And that doesn't seem to get a lot of attention, of course, because everyone's looking at the edges around the island. So that's what, I mean, and I'm happy to rewrite that in a way, but you know, I'm talking about the water supply, the wetlands, and the ponds being impacted by, I don't know, more salt water. I don't know.
So, Marcia, if I can take a stab at that, I would say encourage studies of the impact of climate change and rising seas upon the lands, water supply, wetlands, ponds, groundwater, and stormwater management for areas within the town area plan.
I hear you, Mary, and I understand we should be adjourning. The simple technical factor is that the water table, the piezometric surface, corresponds to the average water level in the harbor. And if that average rises, the water table rises, which would expand wetlands.
That's why I added groundwater in there.
Yeah. Now, I'm a little cautious on climate change, only because we've got some very vocal naysayers, and the word climate change triggers their antagonism, whereas rising seas doesn't. We saw that at town meeting.
However, climate change is a different impact than rising seas. Climate change includes increasing heat, increasing storm activity, increasing precipitation, increasing variability of weather, and all of those have physical impacts on living in this area. Rising seas does not encapsulate that, and that's why I added it.
So in light of this discussion, Marcia, give it a try, and we'll pick up at our next meeting
Okay,
at goals 4 and 5.
okay.
Yep, thank you, Lee.
Oh,
Thank you,
and,
Marcia.
and I had interrupted Marcia when she was getting to 1.2, so I don't know if we actually finished 1.2 when I made my comment about the article I sent around.
1.2, I just said that all of those items are listed. I thought we had discussed in various ways, and so I did not go through each one, Allison.
Good, thank you.
Miss anything.
Okay, I have one item to bring up. Megan Trudell emailed me. They set up for the Mattocket area work group a Microsoft OneDrive that the group can use. I think it's a good idea for us. You go online, everybody can see it, make changes. That's my understanding.
I'm going to ask Megan about that. If it's for storage, that's fine. But Henry, if you're talking about making changes, that would be an open meeting law violation.
Well, then I guess we do, because I haven't talked to her, but from what I understand of the OneDrive, groups can get on and make changes.
Yeah, I would want to ask her.
You probably know more about OneDrive than I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, but I think that might not be what's being offered to us.
Okay.
Which, Henry, I know I'm speaking and delaying things, but intriguingly, Megan just sent around a notice that we all have to take open meeting law training, and would we let her know for which session we're registering?
Oh, good.
My.
All
right, I will get back with Megan to get specifics on this. If it does not violate open meeting law, is everyone in agreement for getting it set up?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
they
think it
do
would be
think it's
be
useful.
good for storage, even if it's not useful for drafting, right? So,
And it's been a while since I used it, so that's where I wouldn't mind a lesson also.
We can do that.
Well, she didn't offer lessons, but Microsoft might. All right, anything else? I take that as a no.
Nope.
I have 5:04. Motion to adjourn,
So
So
moved.
sorry, second.
Mary and Allison.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Nikki. You can stop recording.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, all.